idea for us. Maybe we need to start with something simpler.
Like what, a brisk walk around the block?
No, I hate exercise.
Oh, well, as long as you find this amusing.
Mom, come on. There has to be something else. Something small.
Like what?
This is my robe, and I want you to go into your room and get your robe, and then, exactly at the same time, we are gonna shove these robes in our suitcases and we are gonna walk out that door and leave with them.
That's stealing.
Yes, it is.
You want me to steal a robe? That's how we're going to bond.
Mom, you love this robe. You've talked about nothing but this robe since we got here, so this robe will be symbolic of our trip together.
But that's crazy. As soon as they check the room, they're going to know the robes are gone, and then they're going to charge our credit card.
Well, how do you know?
Because that's what the little tag on the hanger says.
Well, the little tag on the hanger could be right, or the little tag on the hanger could just be there trying to scare us away from trying. Either way, whether we get away with it or not, it's something we did, you and I.
You're serious?
I'm folding this robe up.
Lorelei?
I am putting this robe in my bag.
That's lunacy.
I am zipping up the bag that contains the robe.
I have a perfectly good robe at home.
Now the only question is, am I doing it alone?
Did you ever steal a robe with Rory?
No, Rory would never steal. She's far too moral for that. You, however, vicious trollop. What's it gonna be?
You do know, in the course of one night, you've turned me into an adulterer and a thief.
I'll have you working at the chicken ranch by the end of the month.
I cannot believe I'm doing this.
The cast are great. The script is very, very fast-paced. The dialogue just sort of moves very quickly, doesn't it, Gary?
And nothing really happens. I mean, it's
no,
fair to say
again,
there's not much action involved.
It's very much based around those characters, and those characters are written so well. Oddly, it's Melissa McCarthy who's gone on to do the most out of all of the cast members.
Preconception alert. Is it a girly show, would you say, Matt? Because that is the preconception people have.
Yeah, I think it is aimed at girls, but I think I just like it because it's a nice show to watch. And I mean, I enjoy things like this set around small towns. I mean, I watched Ed as well. I don't know if you remember Ed. That was
God,
the lawyer.
I remember Ed.
No, I don't remember
Crikey.
I mean, Ed had more sort of surreal elements to it, I would say.
I remember picking fences, things like that.
It was very similar in that it was about the characters mainly and the small town. Was it Stuckyville? Gilmore Girls. I think everything about it just works. Dialogue as well. There's a lot of pop culture references in there. I think that appealed to me.
So, you mentioned Twin Peaks. The only connection between the two shows is that Gilmore Girls is coming back next. Have you grown out of it, do you think? Or will you be going into it?
I think the interest here is that the 7th season of Gilmore Girls was not written, the 7th and final season, was not written by the Palladinos, the couple who wrote the first 6 seasons. They had a contract dispute with, I believe was it on the WB and then the CW?
WB, yeah.
So the last season was written by other writers on the show, and it just wasn't as good. And this is them coming back to finish what they started.
It's Netflix, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. For fans of the show, is like
the ending
ending that we've always wanted, because we haven't had what was originally conceived. Apparently, Amy Sherman Palladino always had the final 4 words of the series in her head that she never then got to put down. And a nice little link to Gary's show, number 1, The West Wing, as well. In the final episode, Rory went off to work for President Obama's campaign as a journalist to cover his campaign for president. It's very apt that his presidency is coming to an end as it's coming back. And again, a lot of, as I said, Melissa McCarthy, but a lot of the sort of male cast members like Jared Padalecki, Milo Ventimiglia went on to do Heroes, and I can never say his name, but Carrie from The Good Wife. And then like sort of people like Chad Michael Murray before he was in One Tree Hill, Adam Brody before he was on the OC. They all went through this first, so it was sort of the proving ground for a lot of actors. I mean, Alexis Bledel hasn't really gone on to do a lot. She's done a lot of like rubbishy films, and that remake of Gavin and Stacey that never did anything.
But she hasn't aged in her defence.
No. Okay, so that's the 4th one. The 5th one, one of the crossovers with Gary's list, The Wire. I think most of it I watched in 2009. This is sort of going chronologically rather than... Because Gilmore Girls started in 2000, but I didn't start really watching it till 2004, and then sort of caught up with it. So The Wire, though, oddly, very much started like Gary. Everyone was raving about it, rented it from Love Film. Just the DVDs just sort of sat lying around, never really got round to watching them, sent them back. Tried like the first 2 or 3, I think I downloaded them, and then I went back, I think 1 through 5 really hooked me. Bought one season 1 to 4 quite cheap, I think I remember, and went through those really quickly. I think in 2009 was when they showed it on BBC Two, if you remember.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, they did do.
So I watched, I think, some of season 5 on BBC Two, and then the rest I rented from Love Film. So it sort of came full circle there. On your list, you talked about the way it sort of developed as it went on, and I think the themes that they brought in every season, but they kept the original cast members on, so the cast grew every season. And
but there was a core, wasn't there? Yeah,
there was a core cast. But then you say that, I mean, season 4, which I would say is my favourite.
My favourite too.
Yeah, Dominic West's hardly in it. There's episodes where McNulty's not in it at all.
Well, I like that about The Wire.
He goes back to being a uniformed officer, doesn't he, in season 4?
What was good about The Wire was the fact that they didn't have to have this reliance on checking in on what people were doing if they weren't crucial.
And that's what I was saying about Game of Thrones, that they do that even though, you know, they keep checking in on these characters who aren't doing very much.
Yeah, one of my favourite characters is Carcetti.
Yeah,
the mayor.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't mention that, the political element.
No, it kind of went out of my head because there was
Agent Gillard.
Yeah, doing an amazing American accent. And I think that the following of him going from politician to mayor and beating out some of the people that were in it is one of the better storylines in the later series.
There are so many great characters, so many great cast members. This was a critically acclaimed one that took me a while to get into, but when I did, I understood the importance of it. Some of my favourite cast members, I think Clark Peters as Lester Freeman, I think that's an amazing character, and I think he went on a journey throughout it, and I can't remember the actor's name, but Andre something, who plays Bubbles, I think that character there was just...
Andre Royo.
That's it.
It has switched. The tone has shifted.
The dramas we couldn't live without.
My name is Reginald. Around the way they call me Bubbles. I'm a drug addict. Celebrating my anniversary. When my people couldn't make it here tonight, I left a trail of fire behind me. Time gonna make it right with them, I guess.
That's right, it will.
The same thing get me right with myself. A couple of days ago, I took a walk down in Druid Hill Park, right when the sun was going down. You know how time be like, sun throwing shadows and all. Got me thinking about when I was a young man sitting in that park. You know, watching the girls, smoking on a little herb, drinking a cold beer. I don't know where this is going. I had this moment where, you know, I was wanting to feel that way again. I remember what you said, if there is what's to come, call a group member up and talk. First thing, I called Whalen up, him being my sponsor and all. Turns out he's on a ride with his motorcycle club. So I pulled out that sheet that got passed out. Dialed a few numbers, couldn't get an answer. Left a couple of messages, but nobody called me back.
You didn't call me, because I would have got up with you, Reginald. You can believe that.
Got me thinking about a friend of mine. Boy named Sherrod. Been carrying his passing for a long while. Like that memory I had about those summer days in the park. Thinking on that make me smile. But Sherrod is more of a hurt. But not so bad like it was. Ain't no shame in holding on to grief. As long as you make room for other things too.
These aren't ordinary dramas. These are desert island dramas. The dramas that shaped us.
Because a lot of it, as you say, at its heart is a cop show, the wiretaps and everything like that. But I think one of the things that makes it different is having this character like Bubbles, who's this drug addict, who's all like an informer, and he goes through a journey. I think his story in the final season is the reason to watch that final season, because
I will.
His redemption storyline, I think, is...
I think season 5 is still good.
The journalist stuff is quite good. The dodgy journalist played by Thomas McCarthy, who recently directed
What's interesting
Spotlight
is that David Simon, who wrote the series, was a journalist to the
as was Thomas McCarthy.
As was Thomas McCarthy, yeah.
Who played the dodgy journalist and then went on to direct an Oscar-winning film about journalists. So that's The Wire. Moving on now, another British show. It started as a film, but became a big fan of it through the TV series. This is England, which 86, 88 and 90. I mean, this is what you would describe as kitchen sink drama. It has the nostalgic element of being set in the 1980s. The ensemble cast grew as it went on. It is incredibly dark. The film dealt primarily with sort of skinheads, racism, that sort of fear at the time, the Thatcher era and things like that. But 86 went on to look at rape, had a very famous controversial scene in it. 88, there was like a big suicide storyline. 90, Chanel Cresswell's character sort of was the centre of it. It's TV that's not afraid to take risks, basically. I think that's why I like it so much. We'll go back again to that scene in This Is England 90, where it was like 17 minutes of people just sitting around a dinner table talking, and all what had happened throughout the past 8 years came out in this one scene. I just think it was so well done. And I think Shane Meadows has, he's brave enough to do. Some TV directors aren't brave enough to say, right, we're just going to sit these characters down and have them talk for this period of time. We've been
in rooms with a lot of executives, and they say how important it is to move things along, and so you can imagine somebody saying, "No, we're just going to have them talk for 17 minutes." But how compelling that is.
I don't think any other broadcaster bar Channel 4 would probably take a risk on this.
No, as much as we go on about what the BBC's capable of, I don't see them doing something to this degree and covering these themes either.
And again, the cast, Vicky McClure has obviously gone on to do a lot more, but this was her. I mean, she won a BAFTA for this. I can't remember. I think it was 86, but I think 88.
Gary, do you
definitely
know?
Powerful. Joe Gilgun, Chanel Cresswell, Stephen Graham, obviously as well. Very dark, but also had that sort of cheeky sense of humour and a very good sense of place. Obviously set in Nottingham, Shane Meadows' sort of hometown, so he knows a lot.
Actually, I would say that all your shows so far have a really good sense of place about them. I mean, The Wire, for example, is a portrait of... Possibly, but The Wire, for example, is a portrait of Baltimore,
and Gilmore,
really, isn't it?
And Gilmore. And that's nice link into something else that probably has a similar good sense of place, and that is certainly the first series, if not the other two series, of the Danish version of The Killing, which is the next one.
See, your list is so flaming cool. Why didn't I go after Gary? Are we allowed Muppet Babies?
Next one then, top 10 kids shows.
Yeah.
Top 10
Yours will still be cooler than mine.
This was one where, again, Love Film, or it's Amazon or whatever it is. They still call it Love Film though. Again, I got the discs through the post, and there was a friend of mine who was equally interested in watching them, so I lent them to him after I watched them. I think we then talked about what had happened. I'd read things that were written before, but obviously I didn't want to know who the killer was. This had, again, a sense of place of Copenhagen, and I think that got bigger and bigger as the series went on. You got to see more of the political element in the second and third series, but I think it lost some of the charm. This was very self-contained. This was 20 episodes, all based around one murder case of a young girl, and brought in I can't remember Charles Hartman. I'm not sure what he was, what his sort of rank
Lars
was.
Nicholson, he was a regional politician, I think.
Was he